All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming podcast. My name's Hat.
And I'm Eric.
And today we are going to talk about Nobuo Uematsu. He's returning to Final Fantasy VII Remake, or he's returning to compose music for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Recently confirmed this past week. The internet has been going crazy regarding this information. So we're going to be talking about that. And also, we got our hands on translated audio from the Final Fantasy 30th Anniversary exhibition. It was behind closed doors. Nomura did some talk on the 7 Remake, what's changed. Somebody recently translated that, and so we're going to talk about some of the information from that. Also, Kingdom Hearts 3, there's a recent trailer that came out, as well as some playable demos. So a lot of new information there, so we're excited to get into that. And then also, Square Enix has released patch number 2 for Chrono Trigger, so we want to talk about what's changed and if we are going to feel good about finally purchasing this game. And then finally, we have comments from Jam Gamecast, BioPhoenix, and Josh Patrick. So other than that, before we get into our first topic, Eric, what have you been playing this week?
Well, I did pick up 2 titles for the Switch. The first one being Hyrule Warriors, you see over here, and right. That is a re-release of one that came out on the Wii U and 3DS. It's a Musou game essentially, except it's Zelda themed, and it's got a lot of cool things, like you go back to areas of famous places within Zelda video games, mainly the 3D ones like Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword. Recently added like Wind Waker material that they put in the DLC. Like all the DLC from the previous games are in there, which is another cool thing. But usually I'm not into Dynasty Warrior like games, but I think the theming of it is like enticed me to play like games like this, Dragon Quest Heroes, and what was the other one? Fire Emblem Heroes. Mm-hmm. And they're all just great because it feels so good to play your favorite characters and just go in and just destroy like hundreds of these monsters, soldiers, and that type of deal. And it does have a little bit of strategic value to it when you have to uphold bases and everything. So right. It doesn't feel as mindless as I thought it would be when I first was going to get into it. But I don't know. It feels like it was made with a lot of love. And if you're a fan of the Zelda series, and I would keep an open mind to this one. It's really a celebration of the series over the years, and like I said, if you're a big Zelda fan, it's definitely worth it. And the other game I picked up this week, it's been out for a while on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, I believe, but it is coming out for the Switch just this week. And I picked up, it's called Battle Chasers. And what exactly it is, it's a Western-made JRPG dungeon crawler type game. And it is based on a comic from 20 years ago from what I saw. And it's essentially you're traveling across this land, finding your friends. And it's leading from like one event to another. But I kind of thought it would be like more of a streamlined story type deal, but it is more of a dungeon crawler than anything. And I'm not the biggest fan of dungeon crawlers. My interest was kind of waning on it, but the battle system is very good. It's turn-based. It's you do have interesting things added to it, like you can do things to get your MP over your max MP to use like a surplus or extra of it and not have to waste your MP. That's a good strategic value, and you use MP when you feel like you're in an emergency situation. And besides that, I mean, you get like new abilities and ways to deal with like groups of enemies and defend yourself, but it is a very basic JRPG turn-based system at the end of the day. But when you're exploring dungeons, it feels a lot like something like Diablo, actually, where you're just traveling through a series of dungeons and floors to get to a certain destination in it. And I mean, that's pretty fun. If you're a dungeon crawler type fan, I think this is really up your alley. And Now, I talk about the graphics also. The graphics are pretty good. It's like it has nice comic-like animated cutscenes, and the voice acting's pretty good. But like the character model graphics themselves kind of look like best way to put it, they look like they're like handheld 3D, like something that looks like that could be on a like an early PS3 easily. And
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, it's a good thing. It's the art translates well enough, I'll say.
Okay.
So aesthetically,
cool.
it looks pretty okay, but it's not top notch looking. But then again, this isn't a $60 game. It's a $40 game, and I haven't gotten too deep into it yet. But from what I've played so far, it's pretty okay so far.
Nice. So it sounds like you've been doing some Dynasty Warrior style combat with it's a little more strategic than that, and then also some dungeon crawling. This past week.
Very much.
Very cool. Sounds like some good mindless fun. So sometimes, that can be a good time in of itself.
That is essentially what Dynasty Warriors games are, is pretty mindless fun. I mean, there's of course like challenge here and there for it, but like there's just some pleasure just wiping out like a whole group of enemies with these big attacks and everything. It's satisfying.
Yeah, it's like you press X and like 87 guys go flying to the left side of the screen. Yeah, it's good fun.
What have you been playing?
Yeah, so I've been playing more and more of Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm plowing through this game. I'm getting there. I'm excited to finally finish this, to be honest. As good as it is, it's very, very long. And it's been fun. It's interesting that you were saying about like a Dynasty Warrior style combat is kind of mindless fun. So it's kind of something you can just kind of sit on the couch or whatever and just kind of like chill. Whereas with this game, I've noticed sometimes I get home from work, I'm just like, oh, not another battle. Cause I'm just like, because there's just so much, strategy involved with the battles. You can run behind them or you can run to the side of them, chain attacks together and stuff like that. A lot of thinking. You really get punished for just mindlessly, just attacking enemies. It's not a game where you shouldn't pay attention to what's going on. So we should be good to go to talk about that next week. Like I said, only thing that I realized that I forgot to mention was I do have family coming in next weekend. They're leaving Sunday morning, so we should still be good to record and everything. But I don't know if I might be at the very end of the game and like just because I'm busy entertaining them, might not be able to finish it. But I'm going to try really hard. But I can't see any way this would not be done. So, but you never know. Some of these games like to get crazy. I'm thinking of Final Fantasy 12 with the 100 floor dungeon. It's just like, you think you're towards the end. It's like, nope, you still have like 5 more hours. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely long, but I will give you a slight spoiler. There is no 100 floor dungeon you have to traverse through in the end of Xenoblade.
Cool. That makes me feel a lot better. So it could be 99 floors or below, but it's not going to surpass 100. So thank you for that slight spoiler. But anyways, so moving on to our first topic here. Big news. You were messaging to me about it when you saw it. Nobuo Uematsu. He's been confirmed for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Actually came out in a Japanese gaming magazine. I think one of our buddies, he actually translated it and it just caught on fire. But basically, the exact quote that everyone's talking about is from Katase. He's the original director of Final Fantasy VII. He's now the producer of the remake. And he said, I've worked on numerous titles with Uematsu's son. And while I'm currently working on the production of Final Fantasy VII Remake, it's actually been since Final Fantasy X that I directly worked with Uematsu. So when I first went to ask him to come work on the music for the remake, I thought he would give me the cold shoulder since he had already left Square Enix and found success. Then he laughs, and everyone's basically saying that clearly when he says, I thought he would give me the cold shoulder, that did not happen. So it's confirmed that Uematsu is working on the 7 remake. A lot of people have pointed out that there's been a lot of recent compositions by Nobuo, kind of like rewriting some of the 7 music for like Distant Worlds, I think, and some other stuff like that. Some of his Terra Battle music recently has been kind of 7-ish themes, so it seems like he's in that mindset. So it seems like Nobuo is working on this game. I'm excited about that, but I'm kind of curious and to what degree. It seems like everyone's jumping on the bandwagon that he's composing for the whole game, which I really hope that's the case, but there's still a possibility that he might just do like a handful of tracks, which would still be cool, but you know?
Yeah, I think if he does make anything new, it's going to be very minimal. I mean, you already have like a full soundtrack to work with here, and I think if you go too radically different, that's going to be off-putting for veterans of the series who are so used to a certain tone and theme to the music in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
So people are more expecting like a remaster, likely, and that's what he's probably going to do. I mean, he may make some new music for like certain particular parts and scenes that call for something different, but I highly doubt that he will just straight out go in the direction of a whole new track. Well, I think it's going to be just a whole remaster deal.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, right, since the game's going to be multiple games now, and it's going to be each one supposed to be its own 40-hour experience, there has to be some extra music in there for something, right? I would imagine if he's working on this, because the guy is 59 years old, like he's not trying to, write 180 game tracks, especially over the course of however long it takes for 3 games to come out. So I would imagine if he is going to be in a bigger role, he might take the Final Fantasy X route that he did, where he's like, look, I'll write the character themes, I'll write music for like big scenes, but I'm not writing the shop theme, I'm not writing, the menu theme, or like all these like filler tracks.
Or the gas station theme.
Yeah, or the gas station theme. Exactly, from 15. He might do like some of the big tracks, and I'm sure he'll kind of do a rearrangement for like a One-Winged Angel and stuff like that, and it'll be great. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. One thing I would point out before you start on that is I do think since they're expanding these games, I wouldn't be surprised if they go into depth into like, let's say Jesse or Biggs more, that those characters have their own theme. I could see him writing something for that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, One-Winged Angel is going to be a given. I'm very sure he's going to do like a modern take on that. He's redone that a few times. He's obviously done the original one, and he did an orchestrated one for concerts that was really good. And he did one with the Black Mages, which was like a rock theme of it. I do actually really like that one.
It's got like this big like choir in the background and everything, and it's electric guitars. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was pretty great. I thought that was like one of the better parts of the Advent Children movie. But what I'm about to say, yeah, it's possible that he could make themes for characters like them if they're going to be expanded on more, which they've kind of hinted at that they are going to be. Like, they're not going to be just like, sorry, Final Fantasy VII spoilers, but it's 1997. Yeah, all 3 of them die, and when they start taking Sector 7 or like dropping the Sector 7 plate on top of the slums, like all 3 of them die from it, and we don't feel too much from them because we never got to know them that well. It was more of like the turmoil between like Barrett and Tifa, who lost like companions and lost Avalanche.
Mm-hmm. I think that scene with Barrett where he, after the plate drops and he thinks his like basically his daughter, he thinks she died, and then he thinks his companions died. I thought that was a really emotional scene with him just shooting his gun off and like screaming and cursing. But we pretty much, at least me, I didn't really feel for those characters dying. I more felt for Barrett, this character I've been experiencing time with. So
yeah, and I think that may have been the intent, was to have it like have their deaths be like projected, or like the feelings of Barrett and everything. So that worked very well. So if Uematsu gets more involved in these characters, maybe they each may have their own theme, or there may be like a more a theme for like Avalanche.
Oh God.
But I kind of thought Barrett's theme kind of did something for that. But I don't know. They could make tracks so it's like this is a moment that we're like spending with Avalanche, because we know Tifa's theme, we know Barrett's theme, we know Cloud's theme. It's
I'm really hoping if they do expand on this, when you said that they could have a theme for Avalanche, that made me feel like there's a risk that Avalanche could become Project Nora or Team Nora or whatever from Final Fantasy 13. And I really hope they don't go that route with the gang. But
we got enough projects in 7. Project Genova, Project Dethrone, if you want to go into the compilation.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I guess there's not, I think, I was going to say there's not much else we can say on it, but I do think that, we've talked in the past about how music can really define an experience, whereas if you go to movies, it's kind of hard to imagine Lord of the Rings or Back to the Future without those soundtracks. They really add a lot to the movies. So the fact that Nobuo is going to be working on this, if it is in a big way, I think that is exciting for me, because this game will feel like a Final Fantasy, because he's defined like the sound of the series. And, if it has his signature sound to it, it's actually going to feel like a Final Fantasy. Whereas like the last couple of games, some of them have been hit or miss, but, they don't always quite feel like a Final Fantasy. I mean, they got chocobos, but like there's something a little off about it. Feels like a new direction, at least to me. So, this might add some of that magic that was missing,
If I can give the Final Fantasy series any type of compliment, is that they usually nail their soundtrack.
They're usually pretty good. It's just
even at their worst, or even as you said, it doesn't feel exactly like Final Fantasy. Even at its worst, it's still pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I do trust that Nobuo Uematsu will do a good job on this. That's a very quality control man, so he wouldn't let something that sounds bad just go in there, or say you got to rush something out the door. Because even when he did Final Fantasy 14 1.0 soundtrack, which he did the entirety of it, I would say that was one of the better parts of the game was his music, but the music didn't feel like it went into a great direction, because from what I heard, the developers didn't really give him like much information to work with. They're like, this is going to be in the desert. This is going to be a desert battle theme. This is going to be a forest. This is going to be a forest battle theme. And Nobuo was like, well, can I see the areas and everything like that? I mean, this is all a legend, but then this is what it's just seen in like interviews and everything over the years. And like, he just wasn't giving great direction. And like, while the music tracks themselves sounded great, sometimes it just didn't feel like it fit with the area itself. And I don't really think Uematsu was really to blame for that, but I'll still listen to the tracks any day. But I mean, 14's got Masayoshi Soka now, and they've used his music from 1.0 sometimes to fit it into scenes. They actually fit a lot better, the ones that Nobuo used before. So I mean, those tracks are still being put to good use.
For sure. I mean, in the past, Nobuo was did sit in on meetings. We know that he sat on meetings when they were developing plot lines for games or developing characters. Part of his job was to sit in meetings, give input on what characters should be like or act like. And I think that probably really helped him a lot to understand the characters too, because he kind of had a hand in making the characters to an extent. I don't think in any major way, but at least being in the room while they're talking about it. But with this game, dude, the fact that they can put his name on the game on the front cover, they're gonna be pandering to Nobuo the whole time. So if Nobuo wants to know some information about the game, if he's like, hey, I want more information than Mysterious Forest, I highly doubt Katase is gonna be like, no, Nobuo, you're only getting the Mysterious Forest. No, they're going to be like, hey, Nobuo wants more information, and there's a risk he might walk away. So they don't want that to happen. So I think that Nobuo is going to get what he wants, and I think this is going to be a great soundtrack. So depending on how much he's working on it. So.
Oh yeah, he'll be treated like loyalty. I mean, not royalty.
Yeah, they'll be like, oh, Nobuo doesn't like his office chair at his house. Let's get him a new one. Nobuo doesn't like the coffee. Let's get him some new coffee. I mean, they're gonna be doing whatever they want to keep, whatever they can to keep that guy on there.
Tabata, get Uematsu more coffee, and don't take 5 years this time.
Yeah, don't remake the coffee. He wants the Starbucks brand. He does not want a different brand. Yeah, we could go a billion directions with that. But regarding the 7 remake, though, we did have some other interesting news that came out with. It kind of got a little drowned out with Nobuo being confirmed, which is understandable because that's just gigantic news. Because we were all wondering who was actually going to compose the music for this. But there was also leaked audio of the Final Fantasy 30th anniversary in Japan. If you remember, they did this like art deal, and then Nomura came out on stage and he talked about the Final Fantasy 7 remake, and it was all behind closed doors. Only people that were invited were allowed to go. And I guess they took your phones and everything before you went in, so you couldn't take pictures because they're going to be showing new artwork and everything. Well, someone still managed to record audio of that whole event, and they posted it, and a couple people have been translating it. It's, there's no like huge bombshells, but Nomura did talk about and detail some of the areas of the game, which is pretty interesting, and we're actually going to be reading kind of highlights from that whole long deal because it is a long audio clip. But one of the people that translated that we're going to be reading from is actually somebody that we know. So they're pretty trustworthy. So let's jump into that. I'm actually going to pull that up here.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, we've actually known him for, at least I've known him almost 2 years now. He's a very trustworthy guy. He actually lives in Japan, working over there. So, but I'm just going to go through it here and we can comment as we see fit. So he says, okay, listening to it now, we'll see how much of a job it will be to translate it, but I'll try. And he's going to add some general commentary as he goes, but he does it in a series of edits as he goes through listening to it, and he pulls out some of the highlights. So first edit, he says, okay, so I'm just listening to it before doing the translation, but already some interesting stuff. They're talking about Aerith's house and how it's surrounded by water in the original. They make comments about how they made it a river for it to make some more sense, because how this impacts the living condition structure of the world. And they talk about how this kind of stuff has to make sense in terms of how, unlike before with the quality of older games, this kind of stuff, like presumably how the water underneath Aerith's house makes a little sense logistically. It went unnoticed or wasn't cared about by gamers, but how it's changed in recent times, therefore demanded that with the richness, realism of the remake, that those kind of things will be changed into something that is more coherent in terms of world building. This is the first edit, but I thought that was really detailed and very interesting, that they're actually thinking about stuff like that. And when it says in the past, when they said, hey, this is a more realistic take on Final Fantasy VII, so we're going to have to change some things, some people were really worried about what that possibly meant. But if they're looking at it from this perspective, like, hey, before Aerith just had water running under her house, and on the PS1, it was like whatever, but on the PS4, it looks ridiculous. So we're just going to change that into a river that goes around her house. Like, I think that makes sense. That adds to the game and makes it a better game,
Man, no, they're really going by the smallest details and everything. Yeah. I mean, I never even thought twice about the stuff that's around Aerith's house. I thought it was just like a nicer place of the slums, and
yeah.
It's like, why is everyone trying to live over here?
It is kind of awkward. Like, everything's just utter crap. And then you go to her house and it's this like immaculate garden with like water flowing everywhere. But yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool. He goes on to his edit 2 here. So he's continuing to listen to this. He says he's gotten to the point Nomura comes on and presents the new concept art. And this was the concept art that where Nomura was saying that like, hey, like we've redesigned Cloud. So he says they start with Biggs. One thing I take away is that they say he looks completely different from what he looked like in the trailer. They say the same thing for Wedge. The repeated use of Zinzin Chigao, I totally mispronounced that, but he said it seems to indicate major changes from the original design in the trailer, meaning that this is probably even very different from the design shown in the Ferrari art that was in the exhibition. They say the images brought reflect the newest designs taken straight out of the office. Wedge, they remark, particularly as the hair is concerned, looks a lot more realistic. They go on to say Jessie is perhaps the one that has changed the most, becoming a lot more beautiful and feminine in appearance. And he says also worth noting that now as they show Cloud, by going by earlier remarks that they use to the term real time, these are not concept art pictures of the characters, but real time rendered screenshots. There's some more here, but I'm going to stop here for a moment. Some of this is kind of like, okay, cool. They're redesigning these characters, but I thought it was interesting that the redesign of Jessie to be more feminine. That is.
She already wasn't.
Well.
I mean, she wore. If I'm trying to remember the character design, it's like she wore more like baggy soldier like clothing. She wore like a plated body armor and like baggy pants. And I mean, she did have a feminine look to her. I mean, she had like a ponytail hair and.
I'm going to be honest
like
here,
that, but
when I originally played Final Fantasy VII, because of the character sprites, I always thought Jessie was just some like sensitive dude. I'm gonna be honest. I thought it was a sensitive dude with a ponytail. I did not realize Jessie was a woman until later. So maybe I'm an outlier here. I'm sure everyone's listening to this like, oh, you idiot. But I don't know. My 12-year-old me, I thought Jessie was a boy.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at the character design now, or like even in the trailer for the FF7 remake, I mean, she looks feminine enough. I'm kind of wondering what more you can do to her.
Yeah, that's true. She does in the recent trailers, or most recent trailer. You can clearly tell it's a girl for sure. So I don't know. Maybe what does this mean? Or is she gonna have like huge, like very like supermodel, like bushy hair? I don't know. Like, is she gonna be having like lipstick and like wearing a bikini now? Like, I don't know what that means, but I don't know. I think this is probably, I'm gonna say this is a positive change until I see more. You know?
Yeah, I kind of need to see it to know exactly what they're talking about. It's like, I don't want to say that they're going to just sexualize her or something. It's like, I don't want to accuse them of that. But it's like, if you're going in the direction to make them more feminine, then you have to think about what is considered feminine in the FF7 world. It's like, I mean, are we going to Tifa levels? Are we going to Aerith levels or something like that? Where Tifa is definitely more sexualized and Aerith is more like, you know, conservative, like to herself, like fully clothed and everything. So like, I don't know what direction that they're going to take Jessie. It's like maybe like a meet in the middle type thing, or they're actually just going to like, or maybe just something as simple as just redoing her hair or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think, well, look, these characters weren't fully developed in the original. So, but from what we got to spend with her, she was a very, I think tomboy is appropriate, right?
Yeah.
For her character. Fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if they dramatically redesign her character to be like very feminine and very like giggling all the time. I don't know, but I guess it just depends how it's executed. But we don't know if that's what they mean. But let's keep going here. He says, Nomura says that this version of Cloud is probably the closest visually to capturing the personality of the original Cloud, i.e. to clarify this phrase that's been thrown about so often from the partial snippets we got a while back. Nomura is commenting on how the visual design reflects Cloud's persona, and they go on to say that visually they've designed him in a way that captures the way Cloud was not a cool guy in the original game, but now he actually a F up, just putting on a strong front. They say he looks real, very, very young this time around, and contrast him to the Advent Children Cloud, implying a very drastic change from that. I don't know. Hopefully he doesn't look too young. I didn't get the vibe that Cloud in the Final Fantasy VII in the beginning, I didn't get the idea that it was just a front, because I didn't know that it was a front as a player. You know, I actually thought he was in Soldier. So hopefully they don't like make Cloud seem like he's faking it.
between Cloud and FF7 and Cloud and Advent Children, and Advent Children, he's a very serious, kind of a downer type of character. And FF7, he did put a strong front, but there were a lot of moments in the game where that strong front was broken by something more of a comedic scene, or being like sentimental to someone, or like even when he's like talking to Tifa at the bar, it's like, she's saying things that like catches him off guard or something like that. And, and I think they want to express more of that, because a lot of the conversations with Cloud and Advent Children were very serious. And he came off as like kind of a like older, more broken down type person. And Cloud wasn't like that in FF7. I mean, like some people have said, it's like he was kind of dorky at times. So I think they kind of want to express that more, but I kind of have to ask you again, can you imagine Advent Children Cloud doing the cross-dressing scene?
Probably not, so
see, and that's probably what they're thinking also, is like the character from Advent Children doesn't seem right doing this. So we kind of have to really figure out what Cloud was like in FF7 and try to make that scene translate as well as it did in the original game. So I'm glad they're really studying what Cloud was in FF7, because I mean, almost everything, besides Crisis Core, like most things I've seen Cloud in does not seem like Cloud when I look at this stuff again. So I'm glad they're studying their characters and figuring out what made them tick with the audience.
Well, yeah. So if they're going to go into like capitalizing on some more of those hints that, like, Tifa's like, oh, don't you remember this? And like Cloud's kind of like, kind of, or something like that. If they're capitalizing on those hints, I think that's really cool. I do think the idea that they're going to show that character development between him being goofy and then him turning into this very like depressing individual, and then finally like resolving that by the end of this game or games. That does tell me that at least we're going to have a Final Fantasy with a character that actually has character development, because one of the things I hate is when you can like take lines from a main character of a game at the beginning of the game, and then you can put it in the character's mouth at the end of the game, and it's like the same person. Like it wouldn't be out of the norm, right? Whereas when you have other games, like let's say Final Fantasy IX, if you take Steiner, that goofy character, if you take something he said at the beginning of the game and you put it in his mouth at the end of the game, it would seem very odd, because he's changed as a person, right?
Yeah, so it would be odd for him to say at the beginning, it's like, you're going to get hanged for this, you filthy monkey. And then he, like, at the end of the game, when we're about to go in the memorial, it's like, don't forget after this, but I'm still going to hang you, you filthy monkey.
Yeah, it'd be like,
no.
Yeah, he's changed. He's a different dude. So the fact that they're going to show that with Cloud, which that character development was in the original game, that is very positive. I guess the only thing to me I was just saying was, and I guess it does make sense if you think about it, is when I played the game originally, I thought he was in Soldier for half the game until the game told me he was, he didn't make it. He's just like, he's messed up in the head. Like he's remembering Zack's time. He's embarrassed about it. So the fact that they're like, seems like they're going to show that, like, it's more obvious that Cloud is faking it. I don't know. I guess it depends how well that's executed, because I kind of feel like that's almost spoilerish for the game if you haven't played the game to know that. But at the same time, they do point out that he does look younger at the beginning of the game now. So maybe that is why it would seem odd that this guy's this battle hardened like super soldier, right? And it's like, well, no, dude, you actually look really, really young. Like it would seem really odd that you're this experienced, So maybe they're just showing that, like, hey, you were just some young kid. You wanted to be, this veteran warrior. You didn't make it like most kids your age. It takes time. I don't know. They could go in multiple different directions with that. It would be, I'm excited to see what they do. Let's see. And there's one last part here. It's this third edit. It says, in terms of development, They say the game is progressing very, very smoothly. They're in the process of working out the base technology. I'd say in this context refers to the primary gameplay base for the game. They banter a bit talking about how Katase Nomura and Hamaguchi are connected through Line, social app very common in Japan, and how they'll often work of the game till late night and send messages to others at 3 a.m. Or 3 at night, etc. They're adamant they're making something we've never seen before and ask us to be excited, of course. And then it goes on with just the end of it. Let's see if there's anything interesting here. They talk about how it's completely moved in-house, blah, blah, blah. So cool. They're excited about working on this game. That's always good news. And I think that one thing I was thinking about yesterday was I'm excited for this game now because A, we have Nobuo working on the game. B, it looks like they're really detailing the transition, the character development of Cloud. But also Katase is excited about this game. You know, Katase used to be a great game maker. I mean, he worked on, or I don't know if game maker is the right word here, but
he directed 6 when Sakaguchi produced it.
Yeah, and he directed 7. He did 8. Even though I have issues with 8, it has a lot of heart. He directed and produced Final Fantasy X with Sakaguchi as executive producer. He's got some great games under his belt, but I feel like after he did 10, I feel like he was just kind of like a mic drop. Like, I don't have to do anything else. My career's set. And it seems like everything he's worked on since then has been more of a job and not much of a passion project.
He was on Sakaguchi's leash until 13, essentially.
Yeah, so I don't know. But if Katase is actually excited from an artistic perspective again about this, at the very least, I think it's going to have some heart. So, and that's what it seems like it was talking about. They said like they're messaging each other at like 3 o'clock in the morning about ideas with the game. So, dude, that's good news, you know?
I want to throw a huge disclosure out there. Destructoid recently did an article claiming from the translation that he had made that they were claiming that the game would be possibly pushed back to 2023. He had clarified that is not the case of what was said in the translation. Like, It's even hard to misinterpret that. I'm kind of wondering how it did get misinterpreted like that. But Katase, for the most part, was just making a jest when he said that he wanted, if he could, he would make a quality control up to 2023. That's not the case. That's not a confirmation that it's coming out in 2023. That was just him joking around. I'm not saying it couldn't go that far. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with Square Enix at all if that was the case, but no, that is not a confirmation. It's 2023. So the date that we will finally see this remake in some form is still completely unknown.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot I was going to put that in a podcast as a topic. But yeah, he was. If you go back and read it, when you read it, it seems like he was definitely like joking, like he's aware of what everyone's been saying, like, oh, this game's not coming out till blah 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 blah, and he was just kind of like, you know, just talking in broad sense, like laughing. So
my 2020 prediction still stands.
Yeah, of course, I'm sure that when the Final Fantasy 13 versus 13 trailer dropped, nobody at Square thought the game wouldn't come out for 10 years. But, you know, they're not planning on this game coming out in 2023, so that's good news. But anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say with the Final Fantasy 7 stuff. Did you have anything else?
No, we'll see what E3 has. I mean, it's definitely going to be a Kingdom Hearts 3 focused E3 for Square Enix, but maybe they'll put some FF7 remake info in there. I don't expect anything big from that, especially since KH3 is going to be the focus. But hey, speaking of Kingdom Hearts 3,
smooth transition.
Yeah, they have let companies like GameSpot and other journalists come and demo Kingdom Hearts 3 in preparation for E3. And so far, the feedback has actually been very positive. They have these demos set up to let you play segments of the Olympus Coliseum and the Toy Story world called Toy Box. And from what the feedback has been, it's been very positive. They say it's very smooth, it's intuitive. It feels like a true improvement to Kingdom Hearts 2, which is exactly what I wanted from the game, is to be a better Kingdom Hearts 2. It's like they took and refined a lot of things. They've added a lot of customization options. It feels the interface feels more intuitive. It feels more modern. It doesn't feel slightly cumbersome like it was in the previous games, where you kind of had to like scroll through the menu to get what you want if you didn't shortcut it. But they've done a lot of quality life improvements. They said it feels like they even improved upon the 0.2 Birth by Sleep thing that they had in the 2.8 collection. I can't keep up with this stuff anymore.
Yeah, it's like cheese.
The one where you play as Aqua in a special thing, where it was essentially kind of like a demo for Kingdom Hearts 3. They even improved some aspects upon that. I did notice in the video that they used some more successful elements from the handheld titles over the years. Like they brought back the Dream Drop distance system of like shooting around the room, like off walls and everything. And they brought back the target lock mode from Birth by Sleep, which I thought was pretty cool also. And there is like transformation segments, I think there is, like with riding on Disney park rides and other cool stuff like that. And on top of that, there are in the previous games, Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, you can only have 3 characters out at once when you're in a Disney World. So you had Sora, Donald, and Goofy, and sometimes you would get the character from the respective world that could swap in, like Aladdin or Ariel or Jack Skellington. But in this game, they actually have not only do you keep Donald and Goofy in your group, you also have not one but 2 people join you on top of that. So you have 5 party members at once going crazy on a battlefield. So like shown in the toy box, we had Sora, Donald, Goofy, Woody, and Buzz. And they were all just going crazy. And I will say, from what I've seen, there is a lot to be excited about in this trailer. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, they have Wreck-It Ralph in there. It's not a world.
Yeah.
But you can summon him. He is a summon,
right? Yeah.
Which, that's really cool. I thought that was an opportunity to make a world out of him, but I think that's perfectly fine also.
Yeah, I saw some people kind of like disappointed because they really wanted a world, but the odds, I guess, of that happening for this game were very, very slim. So the fact that they worked him in there anyways is very cool. But
Kingdom Hearts 4, maybe. I mean, Simba was a summon in 1, and they made a Lion King world in 2, so who knows?
Yeah. But I mean, from what I've seen, dude, totally like everything you just said is my exact opinions. I mean, the gameplay footage that I saw, the animations in particular look really, really crisp and clean. The battle and the combat, like transitioning to like special moves seems very, very fluid. It doesn't seem very clunky at all. And this game was developed on Unreal Engine 4. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, it looks great.
It looks amazing. I think it looks, I haven't done like a side-by-side comparison, but I think I like this better than Final Fantasy 15. So, I mean,
I think its presentation is much, much better than 15.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's overall, like, I don't know about the polygon count or whatever, but I mean, overall, I think it looks like it just looks cleaner and better to me, more aesthetically appealing, I should say.
Yeah, graphically, the areas just look gorgeous, and you know why that is, because Kingdom Hearts is not an open world game. It's a self-contained.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
And like, you can make these gorgeous areas that you transition in between. I don't think the areas are seamless. They did say that the worlds would be bigger, but like, I think that's like bigger in relative to like more areas to explore and everything like that. But I think it's still structured like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2
which is good, man. Like, dude, as much as I like open world games, I'm getting really, really exhausted with every game feeling open world. It seems like So I think I would have been disappointed if they tried to somehow make this open world, even though I don't think that would work at all with the story and everything. So
yeah, it would be very inappropriate for Kingdom Hearts to go full open world.
Yeah, they would have to do some. I don't know how they would do it, but yeah, dude, it looks really, really good. So honestly, like, I'm really, really excited for this game. I'm gonna get it on day one, and I'm gonna play through it and see how I feel about it. But hopefully, we get a release date at E3. You know?
Oh, it's guaranteed. They have. I don't know if you've seen it, but there have been people have already been taking screenshots of the kind of like booth that Square Enix is making, and it like literally says on the glass doors like Kingdom Hearts 3 presentation and stuff like that. I mean, they're planning something big, without a doubt, for E3.
They're planning to delay it another year. No.
Yeah. Someone did mention in the comments that they believe that it would be, they predicted it would be between November and January, and I'm in the same ballpark. I think it's going to be mid-November or early December it comes out.
Yeah, I believe that was Josh Patrick who was saying that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That sounds right to me. I'm not expecting like an August or September release. I think if it's gonna come out in the later half, it's gonna come out in the winter time frame, because they want to cash in on those Christmas sales, I think.
Oh yeah, holiday season's usually good time, especially for a game that big. And I'm sure Square Enix is going to market it to hell after E3. So
yeah, it's going to be like all over the place. So I'm expecting a really, really good game. Do we know anything about, because this is, the story wise, it is a very, like, it's just following up on, previous games. If you have not played any of the other games, do you think somebody would have issues jumping into this? I know we don't know.
Yes,
really, we haven't.
Absolutely, yes, people would have problems. No,
you think so?
I can't criticize Kingdom Hearts 3 yet, because I haven't seen the story. But if the past titles have told me anything, yes, you are going to be confused on the grand scale of things. All right, here's the thing with the Kingdom Hearts story. And I know I get Kingdom Hearts fans mad saying this all the time, but the story on a grand scale is a hot mess, an absolute hot mess. I mean, it really comes off as Nomura is just thinking about this on top of my head, and he writes it down. And like, he doesn't have some grand plan or anything. It's like he comes up with it as he goes. It really feels like that.
I think because he's an artist, I think he just thinks like it would be really cool if we go here, and it would look very visually appealing. And he doesn't really think about, he's like, we'll work out the story later.
He literally added time travel in the Dream Drop Distance, and it just completely made the lore even crazier and even nonsensical than it already was. Here's what is good about Kingdom Hearts 3 stories. Or not 3, just Kingdom Hearts in general, is the character stories. I think like the interactions between like Sora, Riku, Kairi, Donald, Goofy, the character interactions and the scenes that are going on, I think are very well done. Like, you really care about characters like Sora and Riku. You want to see them both succeed. You want to see like everything turn out well in the end. You feel like the pain and anguish when like certain characters are lost and stuff like that. They do a really good job with character development and character depth. But on a grand scale of things, like trying to understand the Kingdom Hearts background and lore and the reason for things that people are doing, like the whole time travel thing with like Xehanort going back, sorry, spoilers again, Xehanort like going back in time to like get his younger self, go back in time to get the villains from the first 2 Kingdom Hearts games and characters that we defeated in 2 to get together, and the whole science of everything about everything in the game. I can't even explain it like right now. It's so convoluted. It's so weirdly put together and off-putting that it's like the average person cannot comprehend it. Like, you have to really dive deep into understanding this. And what I hope Kingdom Hearts 3 does, which I think the first game definitely succeeded and the second game did to an extent, is make good character stories.
Yeah, I mean, basically it seems like he's just creating these crazy circumstances for there to be character development. So it's not so much, don't get bogged down with the grand plot. It's all about what happens to them in the moment. So
this is what I recommend to anyone before playing Kingdom Hearts 3. If you have a PS4, buy the Kingdom Hearts HD collection. Like absolutely everything you need to know about Kingdom Hearts is all in there. Even the games that were not good or that great or outdated, like 358/2 or the Recoded, have like movie versions of themselves. So definitely play 1, play 2, play Birth by Sleep, play Dream Drop Distance, Chain of Memories that's in there. I would actually recommend just YouTubing the video or the cutscenes, because the card system I don't really think is that fun.
Yeah.
But just get that collection. It's like $20 to $30. It's a great package deal. Get that, play through all of it before Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out, and you're good to go if you really want a deep understanding of the story before it comes out.
I really feel like, though, like, you don't think if someone's never played any of the other games and they just bought number 3, I think they'd still be able to have a good time. They might be lost, right?
I can't say till I play the game myself.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I guess we're just like kind of like trying to prejudge the game. From what I've seen, I think you would still have a good time, but yeah, it sounds like you'd be lost. So
Kingdom Hearts 2 did depend on you to have a little knowledge of the first game.
Mm-hmm.
But what they actually did was they added like a really beautiful CG cutscene at the beginning to kind of somewhat recap, but an average person isn't going to completely understand that.
See, because that makes me wonder.
Exposition in the game to get you to understand.
That makes me wonder. I feel like, given like the hype surrounding this game, and like the barrier to entry to play this game would require someone to do exactly like you said, right? Play all these other games, watch some cutscenes, blah blah blah. That's a big time sink, and for people that haven't already gotten into it, I'm sure they'll catch some people that like are excited about these new trailers. Like, okay, fine, they just have this HD version for the PS4. I'm gonna go buy that, and I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna play all these games. But that's quite the commitment. So it makes me wonder if they're gonna have some kind of like cutscene deal, or it's going to be optional that you can watch with the game. That'll kind of like catch you up to some degree about like the highlights, so you're not completely lost if you just happen to buy this game as your first one. Because if you're trying to sell a product, having a barrier of entry where you have to play like 140 hours of content to be caught up, that's a really high barrier to entry, you know.
It is, but if you really are waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3 to come out and you never played the first ones, I mean, like I said, it's $20 to $30. Go grab it, and that is
it's
hundreds of hours of game there that you get to enjoy, and they're all good games. I mean, I can't even the ones that, even like I said, the ones I thought that were mediocre and not that great were put in like movie form. It's like they almost knew it was worth not remaking those games, but
just don't play this.
But I mean, that full compilation is worth going through, and they made some movie. I haven't even watched that movie yet, which takes place like way in the past, like before the Keyblade War or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I should probably watch that before Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out. Now that I think about it.
We shall see. So very interesting. I'm very excited for this game, and I'm anxious to hear more information about it. Specifically, if we'll get a specific release date. Hopefully they don't just say, well, later this year. I don't know. I'm sure they'll give us a specific date. So I'm excited to hear more information. But on a different front, kind of lost in the sauce in the news this week with all these big things coming out. But patch number 2 for the Chrono Trigger for Steam version, the Steam version of Chrono Trigger came out. And we've been following this for a while just because we love this game. And if you remember, Chrono Trigger originally came out on Steam, and it was an awful, lazy port of the mobile version, and it got mostly negative reviews. Square came along. They promised that they were going to patch the game and fix it. A lot of complaints with the graphical, the graphics of the game. They put some kind of filter on it to smooth out the pixels, and it just made it look like crap. and the user interface was really lazy. It was just like this touch-based user interface, except people were using controllers, and it just felt like there's this fog going over the entire game. So they came along and they patched the graphics of it. Anyways, it looked a lot better. People still complained about the user interface. They said, okay, we're gonna try to fix that too. So Square just recently came out with a patch on that, and I'm gonna pull that up here. Oh, let me get to... There we go. All right, so I'm just going to read all the things they said they fixed here. So this is Chrono Trigger patch number 2 update. This is news they posted in Steam. Square says, hey, everyone. Thank you for all the positive messages you sent us since we've announced the fixes we're making on Chrono Trigger to Steam. And again, since the first patch was released. Today, we're releasing the second update patch for Chrono Trigger. And here's a list of what's being changed. So they say, this is just a big list here. It says, a new battle user interface has been added based on the look and feel of the original Chrono Trigger. An option has been added to select between the UI optimized for controller or keyboard mentioned above and the current UI optimized for mouse and touch panels. This option is in settings in the main menu. The game can now be paused during battle by using the pause button on the controller or the space bar. Adjusted the look of the playable characters in the world map to be more in line with the original version. The resolution of animated cutscenes has been improved. The display area of animated cutscenes has been increased. Fixed instances where the game slowed down during certain scenes has been fixed. The Korean font has been updated, and other small bugs are fixed. And they're promising a future update. Finally, we're aiming to release another update to Chrono Trigger in early June this year, which will continue to tweak the UI outside of battle. Please keep your eyes fixed on the Chrono Trigger Steam page for more details. And it says, thank you again for all your support. So just looking at these screenshots, I haven't actually had a chance to check out the new patch. But I do like the new user interface a lot better. I think you pointed out you didn't like the ugly health bars underneath the characters. It's kind of like jarring.
Yeah, it just feels really out of place. Like it doesn't look like anything else in the interface.
Yeah, but if they just remove those freaking health bars, because it's like, I do agree, like it's very jarring. Everything else is pixelated and it looks like really, really just like, oh, I really like it. But then you have these like really bright like health bars. It's like very, I don't know, it just doesn't fit. But outside of that, I think it does look like it's coming along nicely. I could actually play this.
Yeah,
so
this looks massively better.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about buying this. But yeah, dude, this is, as much as we complain about Square, they are very good about coming along and like fixing stuff. I mean, they did it with Final Fantasy 14 that came out. It was a train wreck.
Yeah, you could say they fixed that a tad bit.
Yeah, they came back and remade the entire game. They put a lot of free content in the 15, even though they're still trying to do that here. And with this Chrono Trigger, it got very negative press, and they came along and they're doing all these patches to try to fix the games and make it better for fans. It does say a lot that they're just simply out of touch with fans, because some of the stuff they're adding seems like common sense, but the fact that they're not just leaving it like, whatever, we messed up, that says a lot, because there's certain companies that barely even try. Like I know, like Mass Effect Andromeda, everyone was pissed about that, and I know they've done a few patches here and there, but BioWare was just like, we're just gonna leave this alone for a while, so at least Square Enix is like trying.
Yeah, the user interface actually reminds me more of the DS version than the Super Nintendo version, which isn't anything wrong with that. I mean, the DS version looked A-okay also, but when I looked at it, I was like, this does remind me more of the DS version's user interface, but that's okay. I'd say anything at this point is better than the literally translating the mobile user interface over that, which actually makes me bring up also, I've been checking the Chrono Trigger on my iPad and iPhone here and there. They haven't done anything to those yet. It seems like people are not as critical on the mobile versions than they are on the Steam version, which makes sense, but you would think that they would be applying this to both things. Maybe it's a little harder to implement these things to the mobile version, so maybe they're making Steam users happy first and focusing on mobile after.
I think playing a game on Steam seems like a very serious platform. Some games come exclusively to Steam, so there's just a higher degree of quality expected when it's on Steam, whereas when it's on your mobile cell phone, people just, I don't know, they just expect like they just expect it to be lower quality, which is a shame because I don't think it has to be, you know. So, yeah. But
I mean, I feel like it's hard to port, like to screw up ports like these, but you know, Square Enix finds a way.
Yeah, well, dude, Square Enix is very talented at taking something that should be extremely easy and just doing something like no one would have ever thought of. I mean, we see this all the time. I mean, with 15, with they said, okay, everyone wants the ability to switch characters in battle. They implemented that, but instead of just switching characters in battle to be more strategic, when you switch characters, like Gladio will all of a sudden appear where Noctis was, and it's like, what even made you think about doing that? So they're very creative at like doing what you want, but not exactly what you want.
That sounds so bare bones.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so this was good. We're going to keep following this. We're anxious to see what comes out with this patch number 3. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the comments here, mostly positive. Some people are getting a little crazy with what they want.
Why can't you all just take this anger and go put it on the FF6 version of Steam? That's the real insulting travesty in all of this. And like, I understand Chrono Trigger. It's, you know, it is what it is, but oh man, we need to put a little anger in FF6 also. We need to push Square Enix's buttons on this. We need to fix 5, 6, and Chrono Trigger. Yeah.
That is true. Like, I don't know why people didn't just absolutely lose their mind with Final Fantasy VI. Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the press has been really, really negative regarding that too. While I have this up, I'm going to look at Final Fantasy VI.
Man, the internet is always surprising, but I'm very surprised it didn't get the amount of backlash that Chrono Trigger did.
Yeah, so like I'm looking at this right now, and it's just, oh my God, it's so freaking ugly here. And I'm gonna pull it up here. I mean, some of it's not bad. Like some of it's kind of like appealing, but like compared it to the original, it's just, especially like in battle with this menu system, and then these character sprites are just so freaking ugly, man. So let's see here. Reviews. It's turned to mostly positive for this game, so I guess people have turned around on it. It is a great game regardless, but
people did make mods for it already that let you put the original character sprites on it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, so maybe that's what it is, just being able to do that. I mean, recent reviews are still mixed, so I don't know, but interesting stuff. Maybe eventually they'll go back and fix 6. I mean, if they would just release another version of 6 that was like the original graphics and keep the old one on there, or the one with the new graphics, they could still make a lot of money, but we'll see. Let's jump into these comments here. It looks like we'll have to kind of quickly go through these here, but we got 4 comments. So Jam Gamecast for comment number 1. On our last episode, he said, great episode. I'm looking forward to Kingdom Hearts 3. I really liked Kingdom Hearts 1, but didn't like Kingdom Hearts 2. So I'm curious to see how I like Kingdom Hearts 3. I haven't played any of the side games because I feel like they would just confuse me. So according to you, Eric, you think he should play some of the side games, right?
Yeah, get that 2.8 package, man. Just go through it. I really thought Kingdom Hearts 2 was the best of everything. So if you didn't care much for Kingdom Hearts 2, then I don't think like Birth by Sleep, well, combat-wise at least, I don't think Birth by Sleep or Dream Drop Distance are really going to change your mind on that. I mean, if you get that collection, you'll get a good idea of what Kingdom Hearts 3 partially will be by playing the special Aqua story in that package.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe try that.
Yeah. Do try that, and that should give you a good idea if you want to get Kingdom Hearts 3 or not. If that doesn't convince you, then definitely wait till reviews come out or it gets cheaper for you to experiment with.
Yeah, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a second comment from BioPhoenix. He's got 3 different points here, so we're going to go through these quickly. He says, I'm thinking Kingdom Hearts 3 is either between November or January. So we originally, I think we said that was a different user, but that was BioPhoenix that said that. But he said, one world I always wished for in Kingdom Hearts was Robin Hood. It would just seem perfect also, as it was one of my favorites as a kid. That's his first point, but I actually really agree with that. Like Robin Hood, that would have been sick. I'm surprised that hasn't been more emphasized.
Oh yeah, that would be really cool. I wonder if there's any like copyright issues with using the Robin Hood, because I know for Tarzan they had to get the rights from the like original like author and writers of the Tarzan books to get the Tarzan world, and that's why you haven't seen the Tarzan world again in later Kingdom Hearts. So I mean, I agree with you. Robin Hood would be a pretty cool world. I mean, it's easy to make soar onto some animal.
Do you think they could get Kevin Costner to do the voice acting for Robin Hood?
Kevin Costner? Is that the one who voiced him?
Well, I'm thinking of like, wasn't the original Robin Hood movie like in the early 90s? Wasn't that starring Kevin Costner?
Yeah, that was like the live action Robin Hood.
Yeah, I know. That would be great.
The Robin Hood movie, the Disney one, came out in the 70s.
Yeah, I know, but like I don't like that one. I'm much more nostalgic about that live action one. I'm just being silly here. I guess we could also have Russell Crowe if we wanted to go the recent live action one. But anyways.
Yeah, but I'd be completely down with the Robin Hood world. Just oh
yeah.
I feel like there's some legal reason for it, because they've really gone down the list of Disney movies now to the point that they're going to the more modern ones. Kingdom Hearts 3 has been mostly modern movies. It's Tangled.
If we have Wreck-It Ralph as a summon and we don't have Robin Hood as a world, there's got to be some kind of legal reason. You know?
Yeah, possibly, or just they can't come up with a creative way to bring it in. One of the two. But I agree. Robin Hood world would be cool.
Well, you can't have DLC and stuff like that with Robin Hood, who steals from the rich and gives to the poor, right?
Shh, don't give them ideas.
Yeah. Anyways, so he goes on to say, the only thing I can think of for a special feature for the Nintendo Online is an extra discount on the eShop. Because you remember they say they're going to have extra special features announced later. He says, sadly, this is talking about PS2 also, but he says a discount on the eShop. I mean, that's a possibility, right? For the Nintendo Online service. I guess that'd be kind of cool. He also goes on to say, sadly, Sony can be a-holes about preserving their old games since they've almost given up having PS2 games on the PS4, which is the same shame. Having PS2 games on the PS3 was great. Totally agree. They should be capitalizing on their PS2 games because, dude, that was just a great generation for gaming. So the idea that they would just give up on those games for the PS4 is just crazy to me.
Yeah, I downloaded Wild Arms 3 and Art the Lad 4 on the PS4, and they both look great on it. So it was pretty nice they did that. I'm kind of wondering because Sony does have the PS Now, which is their streaming service that does have PS3 games mixed in there. Like,
but doesn't it suck?
In there. Yeah, it's not great.
Like I heard there's a lot, like the big issue with latency. Even if you have a really fast connection, like certain games are just like I don't know. I've just seen nothing but bad stuff about it. So I just haven't really messed with it too much. But I guess for like RPGs, if you're going to do like turn-based RPGs, it wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, the execution is questionable, but I do like the idea that if you pay like a certain amount a month, then you get access to all these PS1, PS2, PS3 games that you can play on your PS4 or on the Vita, and you stream it. And it's I do like the idea, but when I did the free trial of PS Now, it was very questionable. I mean, some games ran better than others, but like if you were like wanting to play like Ninja Gaiden 3 on it, it's like good luck. I mean, that thing kept going.
How fast was your internet connection at the time?
Oh, I had Comcast at the time. That was 200.
Yeah, so that should be plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's and you it was kind of, was it questionable because of like latency issues, or it's just some just didn't feel right?
Well, like with Netflix, it like
Oh,
sometimes
like
it doesn't stream, or like sometimes if like the connection's like bad, it'll just like stream and just trying to pick up the data.
yeah.
Like it felt like it was behind or not accurate or precise. And Ninja
Hmm.
Gaiden is a game where you really want to be precise and accurate with your hits.
Yeah, so it seems like it's yeah, it seems like it was only good for certain types of games. So, um, okay. Well, regardless, if they keep working on that, I think it could be something in the future. But he goes on to say, all I want in a PS5 is easier access for backwards compatibility. That's really the only thing I didn't think about for my PS4. You would think about PS1 and 2 have been easy at this point. And I agree, man. Like, that's the biggest thing. And that's kind of what we were talking about. You were talking about right before that was, or we were anyways, was just being able to, if they could work on that, streaming the games and it could actually be uh, done, I guess, just better, that would be an excellent feature for the PS5, or at least have that compatibility. I mean, I think one thing they could do, I don't know how expensive this would be, but I've been looking at like kind of expanding some of my older games, and I like the idea of playing on my TV. But the problem is, it's almost always better to emulate some of these older games because it just looks like crap playing a PlayStation 1 game on an HD television. It doesn't look like it did when you originally played it. Whereas when you emulate it, it looks a lot better. So if they could do something on the PS5s to where when you play a PS1 or PS2 game, like it could automatically adapt to the older game and just, I don't know, make it look a little bit better, that would be excellent in my opinion. I would be excited for that.
Yeah. It'll be hard to put the PS3. The PS3 is understandable because the processing chip in it was really hard to work with. That's why you don't see PS3 backwards compatibility on the PS4. But the PS5 could be open to getting at least PS1, 2, and 4 on there, and maybe some magical way to find a way to get 3 on there. But I think it would be very expensive if you were adding processing for all of these consoles. That's why they don't do it to begin with, is because it's really expensive to do.
Yeah, I see people in the that actually do this for a living, right? Gaming journalism, and it's pretty common. People are expecting the PS5 to be at least backwards compatible with the PS4, just because, the way the PS4 is built. They're expecting the PS5 to be basically similar technology, just better, right? But we can't really say till we see it. But I would expect at least a PS4. But if they could just stream it, like you said, kind of work out some of the kinks, that would be ideal. Let's go on to next comment here. Josh Patrick, he has 2 sets of comments, but he says in relation to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So he says, yeah, I'm not very fond of the action-based party myself. You guys were saying your AI characters not healing you or cast spells when you want them to. I'm also very OCD about how much MP I want to waste or how many potions or Phoenix Downs I want to use. However, didn't I hear that you'll have the option to cycle through characters during combat? So he's talking about when we were saying that we don't really like party-based action-oriented battle systems usually, because you'll want your character to heal you or revive you or to attack this enemy, but instead they're attacking this enemy, and it's just like it's constantly a pain. Whereas in turn-based, you can sit there and choose what you want everyone to do. And so I totally agree with what he was saying there, but as far as switching between characters, I feel like that was said like, yes, you'll be able to switch between characters. We did see that in the trailer recently where it switched from Cloud to Barret, I thought but I don't know, things could have changed, but even being able to switch between characters, that's better, but even then, it's still a pain,
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how hectic the situations get and how dependent you are on changing between the 3. If you're just if they're just aiming for a gameplay style change, or some ways to combo between the 3 characters, but it's not a heavy consequence if you leave them alone, that's fine. But it'll get way too overwhelming if you have to constantly switch between the three characters to manage everything.
Well, and here's the problem too, right? A good action-based battle system, when it's just one-on-one, or just you as a player, it can get very strategic because you can watch the enemy, you can see tells, you can say, oh, like he's raising his arm back, I need to dodge. You can do like very crazy, like good stuff like that, right? But if you're doing a party-based action system, it can't be that strategic, because if you're trying to switch between characters and stuff, like it's just gonna get like too crazy. I mean, I guess they could still do it a little bit, but it's got to be, I don't know, you're sacrificing some strategy to be able to do that. So I don't know. I'm sure Square Enix usually is pretty good with their battle systems. They at least do a pretty good job. Besides, again, 15, we could talk about that for ages, but I don't know. We'll have to see what they actually do there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, he goes on for his thoughts with the PS5 launch date that we were talking about. He says, assuming the PS5 comes out in 2020, 2021, by then 4K televisions will be common in homes. If you look at the prices of 4K TVs over the years, these prices are dropping slowly but surely. By 2020, it should be fairly affordable. Technology has grown faster and faster with each decade. In the 2000s is no exception, in rampant succession, so it wouldn't surprise me the PS5 is 4K. I can even see them allowing you to choose 1080p if some people still cannot get a 4K. 720 will probably not be an option by then, however, at least for gaming. If you watch a video on the internet while on the PS5, you'll of course still be able to choose 360, 720, etc. That being said, obviously there will not be backwards compatibility if a game on a PS4 was in 720, unless of course they remaster a game for re-release. He has some more thoughts on 7, but yeah, dude, Josh, this is exactly what I was saying on that episode that you're referring to, and I totally agree. I think you know, by the time the PS5 comes out, 4K televisions will be much more common and much more affordable. So I think they are going to rely a lot more on the 4K television, whereas now it's kind of like, oh, this game is optimized for 4K. It's kind of exciting if you have a 4K television, but I think most games on the PS5 are going to be optimized for 4K, you know?
Yeah, it goes back to what I said last time. It's how much they want to be accessible to people. So it depends on how far in the future the PS5 is, because Sony said there isn't coming out anytime soon. But I feel like they don't want to completely alienate the 1080p TV. Because the jump from an average consumer's perspective, a jump from 1080p to 4K does not seem that significant. Like if I, like, quote unquote said, bought my grandmother a 4K TV and took her 1080p TV out, she wouldn't notice the difference. Now, maybe that's like a little bit of an extreme example. Like I think most people between their 20s and 50s can
I don't know
a general understanding of it.
Grandma Eric is playing the PS5.
The say like a mother and father like get the kid a PS5, but they don't understand the concept because they don't see the difference between 1080p and that, so they don't get the TV. And there is surprisingly a lot of people who are like that. So you kind of think to yourself, well, if we make this PS5 and make it 4K only, then families are going to feel more compelled to buy 4K TVs, which may not motivate them to buy the PS5 because they lack the certain hardware that we require to do it.
Yeah, now, I agree with you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
But again, it all entirely depends on how common 4K is, to the point that that's like the only kind of TV that they're selling today.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If 4K becomes so affordable that it pretty much, like, if you go to Walmart, the only TV you can pretty much get is a 4K television because it's just so affordable. At that point, obviously, you know, it's not going to really matter. But I mean, if it's still kind of like where 4K is more of a luxury TV, and you know, you can't really see the difference unless, you know, you're playing a game that's optimized for it and you're sitting 3 feet from the screen and blah blah blah, then, you know, it might be more of an issue. But I don't know. Everyone's saying, like he says here, assuming the PS5 comes out 2020 or 2021. To me, whenever I hear somebody say 2020 or 2021, I still think in my mind, like, oh, that's like 20 years in the future. No, bro. 2020, that's like a year and a half away. It's like, that's coming up. Are things going to be that different? I don't know.
Man, we're getting old.
Yeah. And then finally, though, he does say for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, he says, as for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, there's no doubt at this point the games will be released on the PS5. I just really cannot see it coming out on the PS4. We are far too long on the PS4 cycle. The game is supposed to be episodic, probably 3 games minimum. If it is 3 games, it will probably be 2 years apart each game, total 6 years for all games to come out. Assuming the PS5 comes out 2020, more likely 2021, but who knows? And assuming the first game comes out in 2020 as well, the last game would come out in 2026. At this point, the PS5 may have 4 years left in its cycle before the PS6, if that even happens. It would be pointless having the first game come out on the PS4 and the remaining 2 coming out on the PS5. Hey, man, totally preaching to the choir here. I totally agree with you. That's what I've thought for a long time, especially after I saw CyberConnect 2 was kind of canceled and they brought this game back in-house. To me, I was like, dude, this game is going to be a while. They're just going to wait. At this point, we're too close to the PS5. They don't want to release this game and have the PS5 come out a year and a half later. They're just going to wait, polish it up, maybe start working on the next game, but they're just going to wait for this to be a PS5 release. However, I believe what Eric was saying last week, and I agree, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were saying that you could see, like, if it does come out on the PS5, they could also have a PS4 release if the PS5 is still new, right?
Yeah, it depends if they can make like a low spec version PS4 and then let you play on PS5. This is assuming that if it's backwards compatible, then
yeah, that's done with a lot of games, and most recently I saw that done with Persona 5. There's a version for PS3 and the PS4. Breath of the Wild, there's a Switch version and a Wii U version, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not completely unheard of, but I do agree that the ideal version, the version Square wants you to buy, is going to be the PS5 version.
Yeah, I think you were hitting on the money the other week when you mentioned that they may possibly make games that are PS4, PS5 hybrid. So you buy it and you can play it on your PS4 or your PS5, and it will adjust to the specs based on it, like how PS4 is the PS4 Pro. So maybe they'll have like 3 different versions, one for on one disc, and it will automatically spec itself based on it. So like, say they like a PS5 game and it's like you put in your PS4, it just lowers the specs to work with PS4.
See, and that's what I've heard a lot of people saying, that's what Sony's working on. And if that's the case, I think that's definitely how this game would work. But I also think that's a really good business strategy, because if you think about it, Sony made a ton of money when they came out with the PS1, where it was super tiny and they could sell those things for like $80 or $90 or $100. And then they did the same thing with the PS2 and the PS3. Whenever the new console comes out, they make a ton of money selling the previous console for a lot cheaper. So if they could have it to that point where, hey, you haven't gotten a gaming yet, you could buy a PS4 Pro for $150 or $100 because the PS5's out, and you could still play all these games that come out on the PS5. Dude, they would make so much money. So if they've been telling developers that's what they're trying to do, I fully expect the Final Fantasy VII Remake to be utilizing that, Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I think that wraps it up for the comments. Good comments. Really appreciated all those comments. And we had a lot of good topics this week. It helps making this podcast go smoother. And hopefully we have some, I guess next week we're going to be doing the Xenoblade Chronicles. Hopefully, for sure. But I'll let you all know if something comes up. But I'm really trying for that. But at this point, if you're still listening or watching this episode, we'd really appreciate if you subscribe. And we did surpass our 100 subscribers this week. So we're going to do something. I don't know what we're going to do. Maybe a longer episode or something. We'll figure something out. But I think we're going to wait for a few more subscribers just to make sure no one bails at the last minute here. But other than that, we really appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you all next week. Thanks, guys.
All right, take care.